On this Monday night, signs a Gaza hostage deal is close as families of the captives clash with far-right lawmakers who want Hamas militants executed. And newborns evacuated from Gaza get a chance at life. Give them shelter, a preview of the federal plan for affordable housing. Open revolt at OpenAI, why the CEO is ousted and hundreds of employees are threatening to quit. And New Brunswick's new rock stars.
And I thought it was a joke.
The astronomical feat of 3 amateur astronomers.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. There appears to be progress on the release of some of the hostages in Gaza. American President Joe Biden said today he believes a deal brokered by the U.S. and Qatar is close. It's thought to involve about 50 hostages and a limited pause in fighting to allow humanitarian aid in. There's also some good news about 28 premature babies in intensive care in Gaza. They are now in Egypt after being loaded into mobile incubators and ambulances at the Rafah crossing. The WHO says 11 of them are in critical condition. 5 others died before they could make the journey. The evacuation was risky. An airstrike on the southern city of Han Yunis has killed multiple people. And there are reports Israeli forces are closing in on another hospital, the Indonesian hospital, where Gaza's health ministry says at least 12 people were killed by Israeli shelling. Israel captured a number of Hamas fighters after the October 7th attack, and there's an intense debate underway over what to do with them. Far-right politicians want to use the death penalty and have them executed. Relatives of some of the hostages are deeply opposed to that. Mike Armstrong on how the hostage crisis is exposing deep divisions in Israel, and warning some of the images in the story are distressing.
This was not how things were supposed to go. Families of the hostages have for weeks called for a voice at the table with lawmakers. Well, voices were raised. Linda Dan Calderon has 3 family members believed to be held by Hamas. She says some in the government are more focused on revenge than getting hostages back. With every day that passes, there are new videos of the horrors of October 7th. This one, released Monday, shows Hamas fighters chasing and executing civilians. One thing the videos have done is ratchet up the anger. Now, on that day, Israel captured about 200 Hamas fighters. The burning question now is what to do with them. Well, the far-right national security minister wants those prisoners tried and executed. Itamar Ben-Gvir told the families the death penalty is a must to prevent another massacre, another disaster, he says. Yarden Gonen's sister is believed to be a hostage. She says the time to debate the death penalty will come, but it's not now. The fear for some of the families is that talk of capital punishment could provoke retaliation at a time when their loved ones are still in the hands of Hamas.
Adolf Eichmann is one of those who had eluded justice for 15 years.
Now, Israel does have the death penalty on the books, but it hasn't been used in more than 6 decades. The last time was German Nazi Adolf Eichmann, hanged in 1962. Even if in the past we did something to Eichmann, she says, we're not a revenge-seeking nation. Now, Israel has also captured about 300 Hamas fighters during its ground offensive. Israeli Defense Forces say interrogations with those prisoners have helped expose Hamas operations and confirm targets. But those are prisoners Israel will have to deal with as well. Now, for many of the families, what makes talk of executions particularly painful at this point is the timing. It comes as there is finally hope of a deal that could lead to the release of some of the hostages. Donna?
All right, Mike Armstrong in Jerusalem tonight. Thanks. Today, the UN Secretary General said the world is witnessing the killing of civilians in Gaza that is unparalleled and unprecedented, he said, in any conflict since he took office. According to Gaza's health ministry, more than 13,000 people have been killed, more than 5,500 of them children. And of the 2.3 million people in Gaza, the UN says 1.7 million have now been displaced from their homes. A group of Canadian MPs has arrived in Israel as part of what they call a bipartisan trip to show solidarity with the country. 2 Liberals and 3 Conservatives are among a larger delegation that includes Canadian Jewish leaders. They'll be meeting with some of their Israeli counterparts and survivors of the October 7th attacks. Not all of those killed and taken hostage on October 7th were Israeli. Migrant workers from Thailand were victims too, caught in a massacre that has nothing to do with them. Their story coming up a little later. The American Defense Secretary announced $100 million in new military aid for Ukraine today during an unannounced visit to Kyiv.
All right, we're welcome.
Lloyd Austin told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky Ukraine's effort to defeat Russia matters to the rest of the world. The U.S. has provided $44 billion in security aid since that war began 21 months ago. There is drama unfolding at the company which created ChatGPT. Employees at OpenAI are in open revolt. Microsoft has hired the company's former CEO, Sam Altman, and now 500 employees of OpenAI are threatening to quit. Eric Sorensen explains fast-moving events at one of Silicon Valley's top companies.
For a company pioneering artificial intelligence, it seems genuine human bungling can still occur.
If this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong.
Sam Altman, as much as anyone, the human face on artificial intelligence, was fired by OpenAI's non-profit board. The reason given, he was not consistently candid in his communications with the board. But there has been growing tension at OpenAI between its mandate to benefit humanity and its move to commercialize what it's doing.
As intelligence gets integrated everywhere, we will all have superpowers on demand.
They haven't said specifically that it was about Sam moving too fast to commercialize this stuff, but that's the sense that I think a lot of people are getting.
No sooner had OpenAI's board ousted Altman than another co-founder, Greg Brockman, quit. Almost as quickly, OpenAI tried to reinstate Altman, but he and Brockman were already being hired by Microsoft, OpenAI's largest investor, to head up a new AI team. Now, OpenAI has appointed Emmett Shear, formerly of Twitch, as interim CEO. He says he will hire an independent investigator to look into what the board has done, dig into the entire process, and generate a full report. Most of OpenAI's 700 employees had threatened to quit if Altman wasn't reinstated. Could many now follow him to Microsoft? Could it be the end of OpenAI?
What we saw over the weekend is it's not the company that creates the technology, it is the people. And talent is fluid.
Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella was on stage with Altman just 2 weeks ago.
How is Microsoft thinking about the partnership currently?
Look, first, we love you guys.
I think Satya Nadella has played a very strong hand, incredibly well. And right now, it seems like he's going to sort of acquire most of the company. And it feels very much like Microsoft has come out the winner here.
Experts say in the big picture, the public must engage with how to deal with AI in our lives.
A lot of conversations are happening around the world, including in Canada, on how to govern this technology.
Artificial intelligence is coming, and with humans involved, it could be a bumpy ride. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
There is a troubling indicator about global warming. Preliminary data shows the Earth has breached a critical temperature threshold for the first time in recorded history. On Friday, according to Europe's Copernicus Climate Monitor, the global average temperature was more than 2 degrees higher than pre-industrial levels. It happened on Saturday, too. The data surpasses the limits set out in the Paris Climate Accord in 2015. That's when global leaders agreed to work towards capping the rise of global temperatures at 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. As Jackson Proskow reports, carbon-cutting policies haven't done enough to reduce emissions.
Though it's still only spring in Brazil, temperatures have already outpaced the depths of summer. The heat index reached 58 degrees Celsius in Rio Saturday, pushing the limits of survival. The future has arrived, said this local climate expert. We will collect what we sowed for decades of negligence. Planet-wide, temperatures are obliterating records. Scientists confirm Earth briefly surpassed the 2-degree warming limit set out in the Paris Climate Accord, part of a disturbing long-term trend.
The temperature we are experiencing in these days are unprecedented in our civilization in the last thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years.
Temperature is just part of the story. Floods, droughts, and fires have all been supercharged by climate change, yet countries are missing their emission targets. The world's fossil fuel producers are planning a massive increase in production, blowing past the world's carbon budget twice over at a time when they should be cutting emissions.
The emissions gap is more like an emissions canyon. A canyon littered with broken promises, broken lives, and broken records.
Without drastic changes, the UN warns the world is firmly on track to see 3 degrees in warming by the end of the century, a catastrophic point of no return, threatening the future of humanity.
We will see maybe 10 times as many extreme weather events. We're also risking that large parts of the world might become uninhabitable.
These dire warnings come just a week before the COP28 climate conference, where world leaders will be urged to strike a drastic new deal on emissions. To keep the global average temperature from rising by more than 2 degrees Celsius, the UN warns that countries will need to slash emissions by 28% before the end of this decade. Jackson Proskow, Global News, Washington.
Federal Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland will present Canada's fall economic update tomorrow. It's expected to make billions of dollars in loans available for home building and establish a fund to build more affordable housing. Mercedes Stevenson is with me from Ottawa. Mercedes, what more do you know?
Donna, a senior government source says this update will be focused on 2 main themes: housing and affordability. Both have been major challenges for the government in policy and perhaps even more so in the polls. Tomorrow, the Liberals will announce 3 significant measures aimed at creating more housing and helping to keep people in their homes. The first measure is a carrot for the construction industry to build more homes. The government will announce $15 billion in loans issued directly from the CMHC to builders. That money will result in the construction of approximately 30,000 apartments, according to my source. The next measure is a stick designed to crack down on short-term rentals like Airbnbs. The tax department will no longer allow Canadians to write off their short-term rental property expenses if the owner lives in a municipality or a province that bans them, or if they're not up to date on their certifications and licensing. This could create a steep income tax penalty and encourage returning these homes to the long-term rental market. The final measure is essentially a mortgage holder's charter of rights. It will allow homeowners to temporarily amortize their mortgage over a longer period and to avoid penalties for delayed payments in some situations. Financial institutions will also have to warn mortgage holders 6 months before their renewal so they can comparison shop. And if they find a better deal with another lender, they won't have to pass a stress test to change banks. Donna?
All right, Mercedes Stevenson in Ottawa, thanks. They were in Israel working hard to send money home. Coming up, the migrant workers from Thailand held captive and caught in Israel's war on Hamas. Those taken hostage in Gaza are into their 45th day in captivity. The Hamas attacks on October 7th targeted Israeli communities, but more than 20 Thai nationals are believed to be held hostage. 32 other Thai citizens are thought to have been killed. They were among thousands of Thai nationals working on Israeli farms along the border with Gaza. Danielle Hamamdjian reports on the victims caught in the conflict between Hamas and Israel, and a warning: the images in her story are graphic.
The harvest season is over, and all 13 men who worked on this vineyard in southwest Israel before October 7th remain today. Even when 7,000 agricultural workers chose to return to Thailand. Like everyone else who lives and works in this country, they know what to do when the air raid siren goes off. We would do exactly what they did, he tells us. We would run to the safe room. The entrance to the Thai workers' safe room in Kibbutz Nir Oz feels like a moment frozen in time. While Hamas militants went on a rampage, some of the workers sought refuge here, but instead they were slaughtered. One look inside and no description of the massacre that unfolded is needed. 16 men used to live and earn a living on this kibbutz, working the fields and sending money to family back home. 5 of them are unaccounted for. The rest are confirmed dead.
There's not an inch here that hasn't been ransacked or destroyed. Behind me, one of the bedrooms It's covered in blood, and you can still smell, after a whole month, the stench of death.
There was nowhere to hide, and there was no mercy shown to foreigners. Dozens of Thai men were killed that day, along with other foreign laborers. As for those missing, Thai officials have been given no proof of life. All they know is what they've seen in photos and videos. And based on that, they believe 25 are being held captive by Hamas in Gaza.
We do hope that the first group of hostages should have some Thai people.
It's believed that Thai nationals make up the second largest group of hostages after Israelis.
How do you explain what happened to the Thai workers, given that they have absolutely nothing to do with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
That's what we don't understand as well. You know, the Thai people, they came here to work in the farm, in agricultural sector.
Officials in Thailand say they've held direct talks with Hamas in Iran, bypassing Israel, and have been told Thai hostages would be released at the right time. As Israel's war against Hamas rages on, when the right time could be is anyone's guess. Danielle Hamamjin, Global News in Kibbutz Nir Oz.
Still ahead, India's latest strategy to reach workers trapped in a tunnel. 41 construction workers in India are entering their 10th day trapped inside a tunnel. Part of it collapsed, and they're stuck behind more than 50 meters of rock. There is a huge operation to try to reach them, but it's been plagued by equipment failures and fears of a new collapse. Redmond Shannon explains why rescue teams have gone back to the drawing board.
After more than a week of failed rescue attempts at the highway tunnel project, some good news on Monday. Even if it's not the good news that the families of the 41 trapped construction workers have been waiting for. This Indian official said a 15-centimetre wide pipe has broken through to reach the men, allowing rescuers to send in hot food. Before now, a smaller pipe was used to deliver dry food, water and oxygen. The road tunnel is in a region of the lower Himalayas. The workers are stuck behind about 53 metres of rock that collapsed into the tunnel not far from the southern entrance. On Friday, teams suspended efforts to dig horizontally over fears of another collapse. Now engineers have a brand new plan to dig down vertically from the hilltop. First, they need to build a road to get the drills directly above the tunnel. This international tunnelling expert has arrived as part consultant, part cheerleader.
We're going to get those men out. What I've seen, seriously, what I've seen, there are great works being done. This is going to happen.
Some residents have reportedly blamed the collapse on the wrath of a local deity after a temple was moved to make way for the highway tunnel. Others are angry that politicians broke their promises about the rescue timeline.
As for how long it takes, everyone here agrees we want the men out safe and the rescuers safe, and that's as long as it takes.
Just like the Chilean miners' rescue in 2010, teams aim to dig multiple tunnels at once to increase their chances. This dig is much shallower than Chile, about 100 metres down rather than 700. But in a region prone to landslides, some divine forgiveness sure wouldn't go astray. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Next, the New Brunswick amateur astronomers who just got an out-of-this-world honour. Most people take on a hobby because they love it, not because it's going to lead to something big. Well, 3 amateur astronomers from the Maritimes are celebrating something big. An asteroid has been named after them, not because they discovered it, but because of their shared passion for astronomy. Heidi Petrachuk introduces us to the new rock stars.
And I thought it was a joke.
3 New Brunswickers passionate about astronomy now have an asteroid more than 550 million kilometers away named after them.
We would never have dreamt it. Never.
Their particular rock, once only known as number 20020, now called MEPAC for Mike, Paul, and Chris.
I wasn't expecting that from my hobby in any way, shape, manner, or form.
To see their asteroid, you would need a telescope like this one at the Burke-Gaffney Observatory in Halifax's St. Mary's University, because these minor planets, as they're known, are relatively small, dim, and difficult to make out.
The tradition going back 200 years is that asteroids are named by their discoverers.
But modern technology means scientists detect many more asteroids in space these days, far too many to name themselves. So organizations like the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada submit nominations from local clubs.
And so their club nominated the three of them for the work they've been doing.
Just before the COVID-19 pandemic is when the trio launched their own weekly show online, encouraging others to gaze towards the stars with them.
I always say we're all looking at the same moon, so no matter where you are in the world.
So now their names are recorded forever in astronomical history.
Who's getting the mineral rights? That's what I want to know.
Even as their feet are planted firmly on the ground. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Halifax.
Love those guys. And that is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Montreal, where the Alouettes are celebrating their first Grey Cup win since 2010. They pulled off a last-minute comeback to upset the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Canada's biggest football game of the year. Sorry, Winnipeg. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again on Wednesday. Bye-bye.